Thank you for supporting StageTop 2. We wanted to take an opportunity to do a deep dive on StageTop Encore. So we're going to go over assembly, features of the table, things that you get, and something really cool that you helped unlock. All right, now it's important that I just point out that this assembly is completely different than StageTop Express. If you like this format, as opposed to reading a long update, if you like this format, maybe we'll do the same thing for StageTop Express. But if you have any questions, what I'm saying, what I'm doing, or what you get, or things that we didn't cover, put them in the comments below and we will try to get to them. All right, let's start with height of the table. Everybody has been concerned like, oh, that looks uncomfortable. The lac table is really small. And I am focusing on lac tables. You don't have to use a lac table. However, the risers have been specifically designed to extend beyond the edge of lac tables. It is possible that it can work with your table. It's just impossible for us to say it will work with every table because there's so many different varieties, shapes, and sizes. Okay, so I consider this height, game table height. Now, how do we get here? First, we have the risers of the table itself, the stage top itself. That brings it up off the table. There's legs and risers on the edge that allow it to extend past the edges of a lac table. But underneath, and you may not be able to see it here, we actually have lac table risers. These fit on the lac legs to bring it up. Each one's about 5 inches. So that's actually going to take it to a more comfortable height. If you want something taller, we also include the base to this riser. And you'll see, and if you watch the video when they're playing blackjack, they're actually using both of these together. This snaps on top and actually creates a very firm fit. You can screw these to the bottom, to the legs themselves, if you want to make sure it doesn't move, it stays very sturdy. Right now we don't have these screwed in, but it is actually still a very sturdy table. It can hold 20 pounds on the rails, 45 pounds anywhere in the playing surface. And we'll talk about how we're able to make that promise and actually how we achieve that when I go into the assembly itself. For now, I'm going to go ahead and set these off the sides. And let's start with the core of every StageTop Encore and Epic table because both use the same framing system. And that is the frame. Now, we've made updates to this frame since our original campaign. The biggest, most important update that we have is we now use threaded tiles. In holes number 1 here, these are threaded. Holes 2 still use the old the tile lock design. These are tile locks. They go into place. And what these do is actually allow you to snap the play tiles onto the surface. I'll show you that in detail in a little bit. The reason why these are still left as unthreaded, it was important that these remain threaded so they don't push back out. What we've noticed is when people were putting on play tiles, sometimes these would push out, so you had to hold them underneath. Now that they're threaded, it actually creates a really secure connection. And the reason why we left these as unthreaded is it's so we can these frames are still compatible with light rails or with the LED holders under the table holders that you'll find in the original campaign. So for those people who are looking for it, we do have light rails. We do have LED holders that go underneath the tables. And the LED holders are in the bonus pack from the original campaign. After you thread these in, you're going to use your StageTop tool. I love this tool. It looks great. And this will allow you to twist it in place. And that way it will make sure it doesn't back out. That's important. This tool has two features or 2 functions. That's the first one. I'll show you the second one in a little bit. Now, after we have our tile locks in our frame, then we put our frame together. Then first, one printing tip. After you print your frames, print 1 frame lock. And then you're going to check the fit. You're going to put it on here and turn. Now, it should turn and fit snugly, not too tight, not too loose. If it's too loose, you want to go in your slicer and scale it to 99%, reprint, and test the fit. Maybe if it's too snug, if it's not turning all the way, or if it's you really have to use force to turn it, maybe edge it up to 99.5. But you want to make sure that's a great fit. And that's really the only adjustment that you should need to do when you're printing StageTop. The reason why is there's a lot of difference between filament, and you want to get this piece right. So, how these assemble is you simply bring the frames together and turn. Maybe that frame lock's a little loose. it is important when you're assembling a table that you actually do it in rows and columns. So I'm going to go ahead and finish these, put these together here. You can also never have too many frame locks, so make sure you print enough or possibly print a few extra. All right, so I have a 4-frame table right now. This is great for drinks, very small games, but we can do better. For now, we're just going to focus on this. This is how it goes together. A lot of this is very similar for the version 1, but things start to get different now. The first is the railing system is very different. And it starts by having edges or a base to a rail system. This allows you to actually change your rails out a lot easier and add significant space to the table. This adds 4 inches of usable space all around your table. And what our rails do, or our edges do, they go on the edge, they go on your frame, same way as using the frame locks for these. And it actually bridges the gap on the frames themselves. So it makes sure that it keeps these held together pretty snugly. Snugly is the word. Now I may speed this up, but before I do want to talk about assembly time. Also, actually, before I connect to that, you'll notice one thing's different with our frames this time, is we actually have a connection in the frames itself. This just makes sure, it gives more strength to the frame, more supportability, but also more options. And we'll talk about that as we talk about the bracing system. You'll notice also the base here, the edges have holes. Again, that's to enable more opportunities. So we can have dice towers in here, we can have cup holders, we can have deep component holders. It just gives us more options. And honestly, it saves on filament and print time. One of the earlier versions, we actually, if I remove this, we didn't have that same hole in some of the early versions of the edge system. We added that since then, and we found to be very helpful in options that we had. When you are putting on rails, or on edges in this case, it's a good idea to end with a corner. I'll show you why in just a bit, but it makes assembly so much easier. Oh, assembly time. Assembly time for Encore is going to be a minute to a minute and a half per frame. So this should take me about 4 minutes. Now, I've done a lot of these, but I am trying to perform for camera. If I wasn't performing, I could do this pretty quick. In the assembly video, that assembly was my daughter's first time putting together a table, so I tried to make it as true to life as possible, but it took the typical amount of time that it would take for assembling a table that size. Almost done. Now, why we want to end with a corner is it allows this to slide in easier. Otherwise, you have to really kind of press it in between the two ends, the book ends, and it makes it much harder. So make things simple for yourself when you're putting on your edges, end with a corner. All right, there we have a basic 4x4 table. Now, let's talk about strength. Right now, this table has weak points right here along these seam lines. How we actually make sure that the center can hold up to 45 pounds is we use the play tiles to essentially bridge those seams. So this is where the tile locks come into place. We take our play tile, we set it down, I'm on a little bit of an angle here, and put it in place. Now, if I put a 45-pound weight here, it's really going to hold it firm. Even though the legs are over here, this is the center, this should be the weak point. It's very sturdy. I'll go ahead and assemble these other pieces. Just simply press down, it snaps into place. It's a very satisfying sound. By the way, this is one of our new designs for those from the original campaign. I call this crates. One of my favorites. You can see it on the Santorini table in the blue design if you want to see what other colors look like. All right, So now we have a table that looks like it's coming together. Let's talk about the actual rails themselves. Now, by the way, you'll see all these holes. That's where magnets can go. You don't have to have magnets. These guidelines, or these edges, ridges here, make sure that your rails hold in place. But if you really want something to snap in place, have a lot of magnets, and want something secure, go ahead and put those in place. Make sure you check polarity as you're putting those together. But we'll talk about some of the options. One of the options you get is a nice bumper. Print this in TPU, have it on the edge, have it go around the perimeter. It's very nice, very classy. I like to team that up with inside having a poker chip rail. You do get this, or you can just have a blank. We also have card holders, component holders in this same this same shape as well. Another thing, we have a full component holder here. You can put a dice tower in here. You can put this. This actually works as a cup holder, also works as a deep component holder. You can fit normal, I guess, US size cans. I think European size cans are even smaller, so those fit well. Even water bottles will fit in. Water bottles will fit in there, but it gives you a lot of options. The other piece here, this is hex table design. You get obviously this included as well. This is one of the patterns that's included. You have component holders. This one is a little bit different. This is the LED rail, and we will have a stretch goal of where we can get a different pattern for the top. That's one I'm about to reveal. But this is the base here. The LED slides right behind here, and these are the diffusers. You obviously get the diffusers to make sure it's not too bright. There is storage in here and magnets on both ends that will help snap this in place if you need it to. You simply run your LED rail, your LED lights around here. We'll also show you what ones it's compatible with. Pretty much Amazon has them all over the place. There is one that has a little bit of a hole. That's where you actually run the wire through. And those are your LED rails. But if I don't want these, I can simply replace it. I can put an edge on here. I can put this in its place. There's a lot of different options that we have. All right, so that is rails and edges. Now this is essentially where, while the edges are new, one of the big improvements that we've added is a bracing system. But the bracing system allows it to extend well past the edge of the table. And how the bracing system installs is in the leg holes themselves. So this is the hub and this is the connector. You place the hub over the connector and you will screw this in place. And this is also where the second use of the StageTop tool comes into play. Put it in there, turn it, and make sure it's nice and secure. I'm going to go ahead and add the second one. Now, we take our brace, put it in between, it slides down, and that firms up there. Now, how do we make sure that this extra space here, how are we holding that up? And there's two ways. One, you can just run, well, first, it is a different hub. It is a frame lock hub. Frame lock's built into the bottom of this. It goes here, turns. There's a shorter brace that you can have if you're just running this from side to side. But this is where the risers, and this is the piece that extends past the table. So this is where your riser comes into play. The riser actually slides down and snaps in here. Now there's two size risers. Most of the IKEA table, well, in this format here, this size, and the largest size just use this size. The medium lack table size on the ends, and actually uses a little bit different size, and so this is a little bit different in configuration. So we'll have these properly tagged and described with the parts list. But it's important to note that there's actually two different sizes that we have available. Also, these two sizes open it up to more sizes for tables you have that may not be lack tables. All right, I'm going to go ahead and set this aside. Oh, for those who don't know, after you put in the bracing system, your legs actually go ahead and screw into the connector. Just like this. just like this. I don't have 4, but if I did, I'd go ahead and put those in there and we'd have our little table. Let me set this aside because I want to show you something that you helped unlock. And that is the drawer system. The drawer system actually uses the same brace that I just showed you, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted to make sure to show you. But this connects where the braces themselves would go, and it allows a drawer to slide in and out. And what that actually looks like on a table like this is you can actually have 3. You can have 3 on each side. It really opens up the features and functionality of the tables itself. So thank you for your support. You made this possible. We just started playing with the system, so we're looking at other things we could potentially do. If I didn't get to your comments or your questions, please make sure you leave those in the comments below. And thanks again for supporting StageTop 2. Bye-bye.